Welcome aboard for Mission 7 of the Brezhnev incident campaign. I've seen fit to bring us in on the briefing again because we have another slightly complicated mission ahead of us. It's the next day, December 14th, 1981, at 9:45 in the morning. This is pretty much going to be Phase 2 of our offensive counter-air operation against the Georgian airfields. I'll go over the finer points of the briefing and you can read the whole thing if you want to, but in essence, Flight 22, which is the Tu-22M bombers, are going to be hitting Kobaleti airfield, and Flight 27, which are the MiG-27s, are going to be engaging the SA-6 site and early warning radar at Kutaisi, which should hopefully pretty much blind the remaining enemy fighters. Flight 23, which is the MiG-23s, will be providing top cover, and our principal task is still to escort the Tu-22M bombers. So navigation is going to be similar to last time, where our first waypoint is Sukhumi, and then we fly to Sanaki and engage any threats from there. And we'll actually have a look at the map. So as you can see, just wait for that to load in, pretty much the same route we had before. Gudauta, Sukhumi, Sanaki. And our principal objective is going to be to cover the bombers that will be going in to hit Kobaleti. They will be relying on their jammers rather than any kind of air defense suppression, so hopefully they'll be okay. And the MiG-27s will be knocking out the SA-6 site at Kutaisi. They should be able to manage on their own because they're nice and fast, and probably nothing will be able to catch them down low. So our principal focus will be to protect the bombers without exposing ourselves to the SAMs too much. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be how that mission's going to go. See you on the runway. And at this point, unfortunately, I have to make a little confession. The remainder of this video is going to be all post-commentary, because for reasons that probably aren't worth going into, the commentary track for the remainder of this video was not recorded properly. So, I've never done this before, and we'll see how it goes. But at any rate, we lift off from Gudauta. I do remember to put the gear into neutral. Then shortly thereafter, in fact I've probably already done it, is punch up the arc station for Sukhumi so that we can pretty much be on our way towards the objective area. So I ended up essentially making my way across the front line and down south towards Kobaleti along the coastline. And the initial stage of the mission was very, very quiet. AWACS was continuously reporting absolutely nothing, and I just wanted to make sure I was in the area when the Tu-22 bombers showed up, which you can see right there. They're passing right over Kobaleti right now and laying their eggs on the target with great effect. Supposedly there was an SA-6 site there, but at some points I was getting pretty close and it never did fire. The mission briefing did say that those bombers were going to be using their jammers, so for all I know they're capable of some pretty heavy, some pretty substantial jamming that could have effectively blinded those radars. And there we see a stick of bombs from the one that was closest to us, I guess, if the little icons are showing up, which seem to mostly land in that empty little field beyond the Kobaleti airbase. But what are you gonna do? Now, a little ways after this, we finally did get an AWACS call out indicating that there were enemy fighters in the air on their way in. I can't rightly figure out where they would have taken off from, though, but at any rate, it was, so far as I can tell, two MiG-21s And here I'm pretty much headed straight into an engagement with one of them. My wingman ended up chasing down and shooting down the other one. So I'm going over everything, making sure everything's in IR missile mode and all set up properly for the intercept, and also trying to pick out which of the contrails out in front of me is actually the enemy fighter and which one is the bomber. And at this point, I get the RWR screaming at me because this MiG-21 has fired a radar-guided missile at me, which I was able to evade and then turn back in. At which point I launched an R-60 at him, which he managed to decoy with flares. The bizarre thing was the MiG-21 seemed to be much better at using their countermeasures in this mission than they were in the past. They kind of knew what they were doing to a degree that I had not been led to expect so far, but at any rate I tried to turn back in here, and it's just not quite gonna happen. So the MiG passes below me, and I have this idea in my head that I can pull my own MiG through a split S and catch him easily, but once again I yank too hard on the stick. Sometimes still do that a little bit too often and exceed the AOA limits, which isn't as much of a problem in itself as long as you can maintain at least a little bit of speed. But coming up here, I am in the process of making a pretty substantial mistake in following that MiG-21 up into the vertical, yanking on the stick really hard and draining all my speed, and just as we come to the point where I'm poking pretty much straight up, I stall. And as a consequence of the momentary 0G, the MiG-21's engine also stalls. But fortunately, we do have a little solution for this in the form of the air start switch, which I immediately turn on and proceed to leave on for quite a while, but I did shut it off during the cruise flight home. So hopefully we didn't burn out the system too badly, and at this point I'm getting pretty pleased with myself because I'm pretty sure I'm about to make the first gliding air-to-air kill since World War II, depending how one defines how on my engine was at this time, since it was in the process of relighting. My first missile misses, and then my second missile comes off the rail and also gets decoyed by flares. And now I know why it's called a missile rather than a hittle. And yeah, I'm sure that's the oldest joke there is, but my third missile, there it is, does indeed connect with the target, so that's splash MiG-21. Meanwhile, my wingman's been off dealing with the other one. It did take me a little while to round him up, but after that happened, not much else really went on. We patrolled for a bit and went home. And here we are at the landing. I haven't bothered including the approach or even the shutdown afterwards because, well, being in post-commentary, I kind of wanted to edit this one down to the bare bones just because I don't think I would be able to have very much meaningful to say that isn't in the moment. And you really don't need to watch yet another shutdown that's just me saying, and then we flip this switch, and this one, and this one. Yeah, I don't want to be subjecting anyone to that, so really, it's a pretty normal landing. Still knocked it on a little bit heavily, but it's pretty difficult to grease it in the MiG-21. So that's really all I have to say, really. I will make sure that all of the microphone issues are completely sorted out prior to the next video. And that's about it. This has been Mission 7 of the Brezhnev incident campaign. I hope it was still reasonably enjoyable despite the hiccups, and see you in the next one. Toodles.